1.9k in here.
90k on this.
Then a half marathon on these things.
And this is the distance that I have the most experience at. I've been really, really lucky to represent GB 2 times. I know why, Clef. And what I've done for you this week is I've emptied my brain of everything that I can think of for middle distance 70.3 triathlon that could help you. And I've even been good enough to separate the video into chapters so that if you're only interested in the bike, you can click on that and watch that bit. So if the video gives you any type of value whatsoever, if it helps you in any way, consider subscribing to the channel because there's plenty more where this came from. And we're going to start this video with the things that I consider before it even comes to the swim, the morning of the race. What do I think about? As you know, every 70.3 triathlon starts with a swim, and although it's the shortest distance and takes the least time within a race, I think underestimate it at your peril, because a friend once said to me that you can't win a race from the start, but you can lose it. So if you're going to race a 70.3, then you're probably looking at between 4 and 8 hours depending on your ability level. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to make sure before the swim you've had a proper breakfast, and I would suggest having the same breakfast that you always have. Don't change anything on race day because your body might react poorly to it. But probably where I see the biggest mistakes made are in hydration, because yes, you sweat when you swim and you exert effort while you're in the water, so you need to be properly hydrated, and a lot of people do hydrate, but then they drink a lot of coffee in the morning, and coffee is a diuretic and coffee makes you wee, essentially. So you actually, by drinking lots of coffee, dehydrate yourself, and I've seen people blow up their races by drinking too much coffee before they race. So just make sure that you limit the amount of coffee you drink before the race, because yes, caffeine's a really powerful performance enhancer, but in the right levels, otherwise it'll actually decrease your performance. Do you like the snazzy get up? But it's not going to surprise you that when I get into the water and swim, I don't have any particular tactics other than keeping my stroke long and strong, what I like to call rhythmic. So I like to get into a rhythm and just try and not go to sprint or Olympic pace, because I think that can burn you out. And if you've got someone swimming past you that you think maybe is a roughly the same speed and you can keep with them, get on your toes, because drafting saves you 30% energy while you're in the swim. So it is worth letting someone else do some of the hard work for you. But in general, I just make sure I get out there and keep it rhythmical and smooth. And I'm getting in now. Actually felt nice. A lot faster than I was in Croatia. Transitions vary a lot in 70.3 events, but at the bigger branded events it's essentially a bag drop and swap. So make sure you've packed your bags well and have all you need for the bike leg. It is actually hard to know where to start when it comes to the bike leg. There is so much to consider, but let's start by saying that for me, I believe the bike leg is where the race is won or lost. It's where all of the metrics that you rely on come into play, because let's face it, when you swim, you can't look at your pace, you can't look at your heart rate, you can't take fuel on board. All you can go by is how hard you feel you're working. As soon as you get on the bike, that all changes. And the reason I'm on the indoor turbo is because I've got so much information that I want to give you. It's just not safe for me being out on the road and talking like this or filming with the GoPro. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the way that I do it when I race, and I'm not saying that this is the only way or even the best way to do it, but it's the way that I do it, and it's the way that has worked for me. There are plenty of good ways, but what I'm hoping to do here is highlight the mistakes I've made and some of the ways that you can hinder your performance. It is as simple as that. And I'm going to break it down into 3 different sections. I'm going to break it down into my bike setup, into my fueling and hydration, and I'm going to break it down into my heart rate effort. The first thing is setup, but because I'm on my indoor turbo and I haven't got it set up to how I like to race it, I'm going to take you back to an old video that I made about my bike setup. I'm going to talk over it and tell you how I like to have my bike when I race. My bike setup is actually pretty simple. I've got a profile design aero hydration system up front filled with electrolyte drink, and it keeps me in the aero position. I've then got a bento box with an energy bar and about 6 or 7 gels within easy reach, and then I've got a bottle of electrolyte drink in the main cage and another electrolyte drink and a water in the rear cages. I shouldn't need to take any more fluid on board at all, but I do aim to drink all of that during the race. My tools go in the back of my tri-suit. Next is my nutrition and hydration strategy, and I have a very set strategy that I practice in training and I execute on race day. And it is actually very simple. The moment that I get on the bike, I make sure that I have something solid, like an energy bar or an oat bar, something like that, because it's the furthest away from the run that you can get, and therefore you have time to digest it and it won't upset your stomach or give you cramps when you're on the run. Then, during the race, during the bike leg, I just make sure that I, on the clock, take a glug of my electrolyte drink once every 10 minutes, and I have a gel once every 20 minutes. So I calculate usually I need about 9 gels for roughly 2.5 to 3 hour bike. My theory on hydration and nutrition is this: I would much rather slightly overhydrate and take on slightly too much gel and have too much energy and be too hydrated than under, because all that's really going to happen if you overhydrate is that you need a wee. So over rather than under, force yourself to drink and eat whether you feel like it or not. You will absolutely reap the rewards when it comes to the run. And let's finally talk heart rate and effort. My approach is very simple. I know that I want to stay at the high end of my zone 2, low end zone 3 for the heart rate, but I also appreciate for the first 5 to 10 kilometers, it's going to be way above that. That is just the excitement of the day, and that is the swim as well. But I focus my first half an hour bringing that heart rate into a manageable place and then trying to maintain it there, knowing what my zones are, knowing what your zones are. Super important whether you train with heart rate or power. So getting the bike leg right is the most crucial aspect of this race. Some people actually say that a triathlon is a bike race with a swim warm-up and a run cool-down. They're not far off, really. You can get the most wrong or right on the bike. And once you've got off your bike and gone through transition, all you have to do then is negotiate the small matter of a half marathon. So here you are, out on the run, the half marathon, and this is the place right here where you find out if the weeks and hours of hard graft that you've put in training and the decisions and tactics that you've employed during the race are going to come to fruition and make you feel like it's easy and you're running on clouds, or that other feeling where you just want the ground to swallow you up. You feel like all the flesh is going to fall off your bones, you might turn into dust, you don't know whether you're going to soil yourself or throw up, or maybe both, and you just want it to end, and you definitely swear you'll never do this again. And trust me, I've been to both of those places. And it won't surprise you again to know that I have a strategy in the run as well. And we're going to talk about the heart rate pacing strategy first. You see, I know the pace I believe that I can run at in a half Ironman, and I know what heart rate it's probably going to take for me to run that pace, and I monitor the both as I'm running to make sure that I don't exceed the pace, even if I feel good, because I know it might come back to bite me towards the end of the race, and I don't exceed the heart rate. I don't want to be going into zone 4 in a half iron unless I feel like I've got something in the tank near the end, and then I'll do it. But probably the hardest thing to manage whilst you're on the run leg is your nutrition and hydration strategy, and that's because you can carry your nutrition with you, you can take gels, but unless it's super hot, you don't really tend to take actual drink with you on the run. You have to rely on the aid stations. That becomes very tricky, so you need to plan ahead. I mean, I have taken drinks with me before in the European Championships, actually in Romania, because it was 30 degrees, and I'm a little bit scarred from my experience in Miami 70.3 when it was over 30 degrees, 90% humidity, and the aid stations ran out of water, and it was just the most torrid time I've ever had. So you definitely need to plan ahead. This is how I do it with gels. So I have a race belt full of gels, cut to me with the race belt because I'm not wearing it right now.
and I tend to make sure that I have at least a gel for every half an hour, because I don't want to rely on the gels on the aid station because they might upset my stomach if I haven't used them before, so I stick with my own ones. And in terms of hydration, I just use a simple strategy that's worked for me every single time in the past, and that is that whilst I'm on the bike, before I even get to the run, I make sure I'm hydrated enough that I need a wee when I get near the end of the bike, so I can either go when I'm on the bike and cover myself in water so that I can let that happen and obviously not get too close to anyone else, or sometimes I can stop in transition and go into one of the portaloos for a quick wee, but that way I know I'm hydrated, because I know that fluid is going to be so much more sparse, so much harder to get hold of on the run. And then when I'm running, all I do is at every aid station I grab 1 cup of water, put it over my head and drink 1 cup of water. And in terms of my energy, I use the gels. And that right there is your race raced. For good or bad, it's over. Collect your medal, pick it apart another day. Do not pick it apart on the day. Time to go in.
And that is basically the headlines of how to run a 70.3. So hopefully it's helped, hopefully it's brought you value. If it has, then consider subscribing, or not, whatever. And if you want to see me run in the European Championships, and it's there or there, I can't remember. Hope you enjoy. See you Tuesday.